thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Good morning, everybody. That's right. It is Friday, July 19th, and today is National Play Day. Mathieu St. Germain. It's also National Daiquiri Day. International Retainer Day, and this is not for the lawyers. This is for all those dentists out there. And National, this is for you, Rico. This is to help you with your spelling. National Words with Friends Day.
Oh man, whatever happened to Words with Friends? Man?
Right? It's the lost game on social media. Everyone's playing Candy Crush still.
Remember when apps were actually fun on your phone back in the day?
Exactly. Well, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above or down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and on our very own website at www.highat9news.com. But kicking it off first, that's right, we have the dope dad himself, Mr. Rico Lamitte, the Quasimodo caretaker, the event specialist who loves to mix and mingle and frolic around all of the cannabis industry. That's right. It is the dope dad himself who will still make sure to leave the event early to make sure that he has time to put little Zozo to bed, because that's what dope dads do. That's right. It is none other than the dope dad himself, Mr. Rico Lamitte.
Oh, yeah, Jason. I appreciate it, man. It was great seeing you as always last night, and kicking it a little with the community, because that's what we do out here. And speaking of community, and because it is Feel Good Friday, I got a great one coming out of the imported California weed capital of the world, New York City.
I like how you said the imported capital. That was good.
You like that?
Yeah.
You like that?
Yes.
You like that? All right. So the officials in New York claim to have now shuttered 640 unlicensed cannabis retailers under Operation Padlock to Protect since the controversial initiatives launched early May of this year. Last month, the campaign's constitutionality was challenged by 27 of the closed shop owners for its lack of due process. But thanks to federal judges ruling yesterday in Manhattan, enforcement agents have been greenlit to keep doing whatever they deem necessary to clean up the messes created by Governor Kathy Hochul and Mayor Eric Adams. Reuters' Jonathan Stemple reported that U.S. District Judge Paul Oetken refused to halt New York City's crackdown on unlicensed sellers of cannabis, citing public safety concerns, and the 27 sellers whose businesses were shut down were unlikely to succeed on their claim that the closures violated their due process rights under the U.S. Constitution's 14th Amendment. Under new state law known as the Smokeout Act, Manhattan's Operation Padlock to Protect was launched as a heavy-handed approach to address local complaints about unlicensed shops vastly outnumbering the licensed. Per the article, the 27 sellers accused the city of causing irreparable harm by unilaterally closing shops, including for non-cannabis products, based on an assumption that they were unlicensed. Oatkin, however, said that the risk of erroneous deprivation was low, citing procedures that could let sellers reopen within a couple of weeks. The judge also said unlicensed shops pose significant public health risks because of their unregulated processing and labeling, and an especially significant risk to minors as a result of their locations and marketing practices. In a statement, New York City Mayor Eric Adams welcomed the decision. We are protecting New Yorkers, particularly young people, from the health and safety threats being posed by illegal cannabis shops. If you are operating in an illegal cannabis business, our administration is sending a clear message. You will be shut down. The city estimates it has seized $20 million in illegal products and imposed more than $51 million in civil fines since the crackdown began. In addition, closing 640 smoke shops. Critics say that the biggest issue with Operation Padlock to Protect is that the heavy-handed enforcement tactics being used are very reminiscent of the state's controversial broken windows policing, popularized in the 1990s by New York City Police Commissioner William Bratton and Mayor Rudy Giuliani, leading to a dark 2 decades of stop and frisk over policing in black and brown neighborhoods where thousands of innocent people were harassed, assaulted, and killed by officers given immunity from any form of repercussion. The whole reason that New York needed social equity programming in the first place was broken windows policing. And now, because Hochul and Adams fucked things up so badly, non-cannabis business owners legally operating in the same neighborhoods as these bad actors run the risk of becoming collateral damage, regardless of if they were selling illegal products or not. But it's not all bad, because sometime in the future, long after the mission accomplished banners are gone and all the last selfies are taken at Hochul and Adams' inevitable photo op and victory parade, these folks too will get the opportunity to create generational wealth as card licensees too. I'm Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street for High 9 News, and America's a great place.
So, Rico, you're telling me that they're claiming that they've closed over 600 stores in New York?
So they say.
Have they told you how many of those 600 stores have reopened?
700.
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah.
Man, this New York.
So stupid. It's just dumb.
I mean... New York is the true freedom market, boy. I'll tell you that much. That is for sure, without a doubt. I mean, these same policies. I mean, it definitely seems like they are trying to reinstate some type of like stop and frisk in regards with this whole Operation Padlock and lock people out of their buildings that they pay rent on and things like that. And I don't think that I still don't think that they have the legal standing to really do that. Now, granted, if these New York courts, because we all know that these New York courts are like super woke and don't listen to the law, they just listen to ideology. I'm willing to bet that ultimately that some of these shops, and when their cases get to higher courts, as long as they have the money to fund them, that they would ultimately be successful in getting some overturned rulings.
I'm going to push back on you a little bit there, because they're not super woke, whatever that means. Because
yeah, they are.
You can't. You still can't tell me the definition.
Look at the DA's office, bro. They are woke AF.
Why are you using words you don't understand, Jason?
I do understand it, bro. I do understand it.
I'd rather be awake than asleep.
I feel you. I feel you. I stay awake. I'm just not woke. And I can't sleep because there's too much wokeness going on in the streets.
Is that a medical diagnosis, woke?
I think so. Yeah.
Hey, Dr. T, if you want to turn it into a medical diagnosis, because I thought the medical diagnosis was called TDS, which stands for Trump Derangement Syndrome.
Yeah, Delta 8 gummies are really good for sleep deprivation, so I hear. Jason.
Bro, you know who had TDS was Hulk Hogan last night, bro. I thought he was going to fillet the ex-president on stage.
You thought it was about to be, you thought the WWF was coming back to slam the WWE? Is that what you're telling me?
Bro, I thought Hogan was going to fucking deep throat Donnie.
I think it would have been I think it would have been cool if he would have came out with Jim McMahon.
I just love the fact that that Trump continues to bring just racists out to say whatever they want to say.
Oh God.
Oh, you said he said he was a racist. Did you not hear the audio of Hulk Hogan talking about his daughter dating black men?
No, I have not heard anything like that.
Yes, he said specifically, "I am a racist."
Damn, son.
Drop 5 N-bombs.
Whoa.
In this audio. And said if she's
where
going to date any
did
black
this
man,
audio come from?
I hope it's at least. She said, "I'll send you the damn link right now."
Send it to me.
She said, "If his daughter is dating any black man, at least be worth $100 million, be a NBA player or something." His words. And there's a guy doing keynote speeches.
I mean, maybe his money's maybe his money's running out, and he wants to make sure that his girl is, you know what I'm saying, taken care of.
I'm not sure what black.
So the audio came about when he got $140 million from the website Gawker for them publishing a sex tape where he was humping his friend Bubba the Love Sponge's wife.
What?
Yep. And
Bubba the Love Sponge. Where the hell are you guys pulling this shit out
Bubba
of?
the Love Sponge is a radio personality, and he would have Hogan come over and bang his wife out, and somehow that got released. Gawker got a copy of it, and they published it, and then when he sued them, all this other stuff came out.
Bubba the Love Sponge. Dr. Mark, have you ever heard of this guy?
Name up.
It's true, Jason. He's on in the mornings.
I heard about him during the Gawker lawsuit. I think he's like a Florida daytime traffic radio guy.
Yeah, he's in Jacksonville, Florida.
Oh, interesting.
Florida.
There you go. Hi,
Florida
Jenny.
man.
Shout out to all the Trumpites, as your boy, the infamous racist, the self-proclaimed racist Hulk Hogan calls you guys, the Trumpites.
Interesting.
Correct.
Can't
Interesting.
make this shit up. America,
bro. I love America, the greatest country in the world.
Greatest.
Yeah.
Dr. Mark, I mean, you're the closest one of all of us to New York. What do you think about this whole mess? This 600 store closure?
Yeah, well, I think you bring up a really important point. You know, how many of those are back open? And when they, you know, it's like whack-a-mole. They close down one store and 3 more open up in the neighborhood. They may not be, you know, again, advertising storefronts, but certainly you could still get your supply of what you need in those neighborhoods.
Yeah.
So I don't think that supply's
Especially now in the day of the digital age. When a lot of these places, you know what I mean, they could just send text messages out to their customer base and just, you know what I'm saying, let people know immediately where they moved to and where services are being provided and whatnot. Like, it's very easy to communicate with the masses now, as opposed to like back in the day.
They'll find a way to they'll find a way to get that product to market. And you know, I don't know, like until they get parity between the regulated prices and like legacy market prices. I mean, ultimately, that's going to put the consumer, right? If you could buy weed cheaper than you can get it from your guy, well, there's a motivation.
Fair enough. And shout out to the C word with a big old super chat. I guess it's Wagyu Fridays today, you guys. He says, "Yo, I thought race baiting was the chat's job, Rico." I added the Rico part in.
I'm just asking, where's the bait? Paul Hogan said he literally said this. Come on.
Oh no! Shout out to the C word. Yes. Yeah. Oh man, you guys, this is too good, so good. We're gonna go to a commercial and we are gonna be right back.
Oh man, that was weird. Hey, you America. Do I look like Sean Connery?
Good
morning, America. Saman Razani coming to you live from sunny Los Angeles, California with the one and only highest host, Mr. Jason Beck, smoking on the best weed in the world. Did you know that we have an audio-only version of our podcast? You can find it on Apple, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. No excuses in 2024. If you haven't checked us out, check it out now. And also, check out what the Prophet's doing in 2024.
Your finger up.
What are you sticking your finger up?
Whoa. Pause.
Whoa. Hold on.
Whoa.
And we're back.
I guess Mathieu St. Germain is checking the wind flow today because he's sticking his finger up in the air.
He's doing his kegels.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, man. Hey.
The wind is blowing strange over here in St. Germain.
It's a family
Good
show.
morning.
Come on now.
Hi at night.
All right. Up next.
Yeah.
The immortal champion of everything and everything everywhere all at once. The psychedelic flamethrower from God's realm to the Martians. And co-host of What's Good podcast, come to the stage is our man, the myth, the legend, who has been around since time, Mathieu St. Germain. What do you have for us? My fellow dope dad.
Thanks, Brother Rico. Thanks, co-hosts and hosts and people out there watching. I've got yet another great story about psilocybin. Psilocybin generates psychedelic experience by disrupting the brain network. Maybe. Heat map of brain activity patterns shows profound disturbance during an individual's experience after taking psilocybin. By disturbance, they just mean it's doing not normal stuff. It's not bad. Relatively stable patterns before and after are temporarily scrambled during the trip. Researchers at Washington University School of Medicine in St. Louis report that psilocybin destabilizes a critical network of brain areas involved in introspective thinking. Findings provide a neurobiological explanation for the drug's mind-bending effects. People who consume, I'm already off to a great start, psilocybin-containing mushrooms, otherwise known as magic mushrooms, typically undergo a surreal experience in which their sense of space, time, and self is distorted. Advocates have long argued that under the right conditions, psychedelic experiences can create mental distress, and a smattering of scientific studies show they may be right. In this new study, the active compound is temporarily dislocating a critical network of brain areas involved in introspective thinking, such as daydreaming and remembering. The findings provide a neurobiological explanation for the drug's mind-bending effects and lay some of the groundwork for the development of psilocybin-based therapies for mental illnesses such as depression and post-traumatic stress disorder. There's a massive effect initially, and when it's gone, a pinpoint effect remains. That's exactly what you'd want to see for a potential medicine. You wouldn't want people's brains to be obliterated for days. You also wouldn't want everything to snap back the way it was immediately. You want an effect that lasts long enough to be different. These days, we know a lot about the psychological effects and the molecular cellular effects of psilocybin, said first author Joshua S. Siegel, MD, PhD, an instructor in psychiatry. We don't know much about what happens at the level that connects the level of functional brain networks. So that gap, the team got an expert in brain imaging, and they devised a way to visualize the impact of psilocybin on individual participants' functional brain networks, neural communication pathways that connect different brain regions to correlate changes in these networks with their subjective experiences. Psilocybin caused profound and widespread, yet not permanent, changes to the brain's functional networks. In particular, it desynchronized the default mode network, interconnected set of brain areas that ordinarily are simultaneously active when the brain is not working on anything in particular. After falling out of sync, the network reestablished itself when the acute effects of the drugs wore off. Small differences from pre-psilocybin scans persisted for weeks. The default mode network remained stable in people who received the placebo, which was methylphenidate. So if we look at these pictures, we have some pictures of brain scans. Over here to the very left, that is a normal before treatment brain. As we can see, while they're under the effects of the psychedelics, those red areas indicate much more blood flow and heat. So there's all kinds of interconnectivity and upregulated activity. And then when we see the long term, most of the patterns look somewhat similar, and they've cooled back down to these blues, greens, and yellows. But as you can see between the two, there are actual differences in where blood flow and so, i.e., chemical and mental processes are taking place in the brain. One of the things that I think they're going to find that they found from LSD and psilocybin is part of this is a demapping or a de-imprinting function and then a re-imprinting function. I think that Dr. Timothy Leary spoke about this decades ago. One of the best things about psychedelics is they literally can help you to temporarily lose your imprint and re-imprint. And these imprints that happen to us when we are infants are oftentimes the cause of people's traumas, etc., in their life. They say normally each individual's functional brain work is as distinctive as a fingerprint. Psilocybin changed these brain networks so thoroughly that individuals could no longer be identified until the acute effects wore off. What these studies are showing is there's a lot more we have yet to know and learn about these chemicals. I'm really excited to hear, especially what the doctors, but all of my fellow correspondents have to say. This is Mathieu St. Germain on a Friday for the High at 9 News.
I'm really interested to see what the doctors say, but I'll tell you what, the trip one, I think that looks like the healthiest color activity of the brain out of the three pictures.
Well, you are, but because of the heat map, that means you are getting actually more blood flow to the brain.
See?
That you would have
right.
a greater clearing effect and more oxygen to the brain, etc.
Look at that. Look at that. The middle.
Yeah, fMRI, which is a great technique to localize activity in the brain, measures magnetic resonance, which it will include blood flow as well as other activities. What's really interesting about this is the before the trip and after the trip images and how they are very similar. So that also shows that the long-term effects are not necessarily damaging or ongoing, as a lot of people believe they might be. There's that old adage that once you take a psychedelic, then it messes with your brain permanently, and it makes you psychotic. So this sort of shows the before and after are relatively similar.
This is super, super interesting, that perspective, Dr. T. So basically, it's just like a plane. Like you take off, you have your high, and then you land, and everything goes back to normal.
Right, but if you do it right with the right intention, you may land at a better airport than you took off from.
That's like flying from Bakersfield to San Francisco.
You can't fly from Bakersfield.
There you go.
We always fly private.
I understand that.
Weird.
But most people don't know you can fly.
What is there? I want to know from the doctors. Like, there's obviously a lot more activity going on during the trip and a lot more blood flow and oxygen. Is there any issue if that's like, I don't know, over a more sustained period than it shouldn't? Jason,
I was just asking.
How long is that much brain activity and that much blood flow to the brain safe? Like, is there any increased risk in that? I mean, like, obviously, I'm fine with LSD and I came back every time, but when do you get into the portions where you may not come back from that trip?
Well, I mean, this is showing that you do come back, and I haven't read the study. I'd love to. The question is, did they test it for a length of time? How long was the trip? What was the dose? All of these are important questions as you're looking at before and after. I'll have to read the study before I can answer that.
Jenny, I'm not a doctor, but I've been at Burning Man doing LSD, mushrooms, and MDA and 2CB for a week straight, trying to literally kill myself with psychedelics, and I remain.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? You're just fine, Matthew. There's no visible side effects.
Yeah, but Matthew, you're the immortal one, bro. You've been here since Jesus was here. So, I mean,
I would like to get a certified letter from the doctors that I am fine.
I'm not sure. I'm seeing a lot of glowing things over here.
Dr. T's just going to put it on a recommendation form and send it over, so you got a clean bill of health.
He's like, dude needs some for whatever he's got.
Yeah, exactly.
Very interesting skin condition.
Dr. Mark, what do you think about all this brain activity going on?
Yeah, it's really cool. You got to remember, though, that there's lots of systems and lots of things and lots of chemistry going on in the brain. Blood flow is certainly one indication around activity, because what we know with blood flow is obviously it's bringing oxygen to the cells, but it's also taking away CO2 and other respiration products. So in that sense, yes, increasing blood flow is healthy for the brain.
Mm-hmm.
But as Dr. T knows and everybody else, is that there's all kinds of electrical signals happening in the brain. Some of those can be correlated to increase or decrease of blood flow, but they're kind of operating independent from one another. And so the electrical activity that these things have in the brain is a fact that at the synapse, there's basically an electrical junction where charge is built up. And when that synapse fires, there's actually an electrical charge that goes across that gap. So it would be also equally interesting to look at blood flow as look at brainwave and other indications around, that sense of normalcy. So yes, blood flow, you'd say here's before and here's after, and here's in between. This is what Matt looks like all the time, right? He never, right? He's on this eternal trip. And then here's the rest of the population. We're all normal. But I think that what we do know is the receptors that these things act on, like 5-HT and whatnot, that they're related to a lot of different other activities that are in the brain. So while blood flow is important, also electrical brainwave activity and other things might be, again, curious to look at. It's kind of like just looking at like the oil level in your engine. Mm-hmm. There's lots of other things that you may want to look at as well as just looking at the oil.
Like your tire pressure, huh, Dr. Mark?
Tire pressure, yeah. Mm-hmm. Whether you got gasoline in the car,
yeah.
Whether all your, electrical contacts are making contact. And certainly I think what happens in the brain, there is kind of like a rewiring, Matt, right? That happens after,
yes, sir.
After the psychedelic experience. They attribute that to something called neuroplasticity.
Yeah, neuroplasticity. Yeah.
Yes. Correct.
Very good, Jason.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So think of it like that, like how your brain responds to certain stimuli and how your brain kind of resets itself after the application of said stimuli. So
yes, Doctor, and Dr. Timothy Leary did amazing work on this, and he was really probably one of the greatest philosophers, scientists, priests of the 20th century, and maybe even several hundred years. Currently, a lot of his work has been obscured by mainstream media and the government demonizing him with his turn on, tune in, drop out, which really he was right on about the whole thing. I'm going to dial into it. What he talks about is imprinting, and he gives the example of like you can imprint a duck an orange basketball, and that duck will prefer that orange basketball to its own mother that can give its life because of that real very delicate moment when the organism is designed to see its parental figure and imprint on it. And it's not just imprinting who your parents is, it's imprinting your attachment style, which you can Google attachment style, I won't go into it, and these other things that really form who you are as a person. And one of the things that Leary supposed, and it seems like with some of the MRI and fMRI readouts that we're getting, is that the psychedelics kind of open up the mapping pathways and smooth out these grooves that we've created through imprinting and habit. And now, if someone does it without intention or with mixed use of drugs, or they aren't really paying attention, it could get a benefit or not. But when you really slow down, do it the right way with intention, have a great opportunity to actually re-imprint your system and basically rewrite your own operating software so that you interface with the world in a more positive manner. And I think that's what this study is even showing too, is we have this normal brain usage. All of a sudden there's a flurry of activity. The entire brain's lit up. And then there's just slight alterations in brain activity in the post-trip scan. Mm-hmm. I think this is really something that points to, like, and if we can see, and I think not just the RNC, but the DNC and all these people who are caught in these two tribes and these main buckets of mainstream America, if we really dial down, and I see it when I'm talking to everybody and trying to offer them visions of a different future, everyone is really stuck in fear. Fear of what is, fear of what was, fear of what will be, message that they keep broadcasting from themselves subconsciously without even realizing it, that it's never going to change. It's always been this way, which is another message rooted out of fear and the will to safety. What I would counter with is the more people that do these mushrooms, especially with intention and in a community structured manner, maybe we'll have a chance to get off of this fear trip, because if we continue down this road, it doesn't look good for us. Mm-hmm. And I would say that the way through this is for us to disregard our fear and stand up as warriors together in love, grab the hands of the people around us, and model the best behavior so that we actually can change what is going on in our country and in the world. Mm-hmm. And I'm high, you guys.
No.
I have a question. I have a quick question before we move on, you guys. But Dr. T and Dr. Mark, they say that the average person only uses 10% of their brain power. So by taking psychedelics, and we see all of this brain activity going on, does that mean that you are using more than 10% of your brain power at that time?
Well, tell me what brain power is, and I'll answer the question. There's no RPMs for brain. There's brain. There's
not a thought per second speed.
No.
Well, there should be. Maybe a thought per minute for some people, but.
Oh wow.
I also want to point that this method that they use, fMRI, is really, if you consider set and setting as important. This is in a tube, that
right.
claustrophobic tube. So, just take it with a grain of salt.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
I have a question for Mathieu. Who did your makeup today?
That was me, Dr. Mark. I make all of these visuals myself. I spend a lot of free time when I'm not working out or walking around outside, making fractals and different visuals, and maybe I need help, you guys. I don't know.
It's all right. We all know he does.
I'm slightly obsessed.
Speaking of
I can't
help,
tell if you're a black man or if you're white. So it kind of removes.
I'm actually 6% Sub-Saharan African, 2.3% Neanderthal, and the remainder Iberian.
Speaking of help, we're going to call a doctor to the room because we definitely need a doctor for all of this. Coming up next, it is none other than Dr. Gene Talleyrand. He is the founder of the CESC and of Medican, where everyone should be getting their cannabis recommendations, at least in the state of California and anywhere else Dr. Talleyrand is licensed to practice. But none other than that, it is none other than Dr. Gene Talleyrand.
Thanks, Jason. Happy Friday, everyone. So today's headline is from Marijuana Moment. 3 out of 4 patients say medical cannabis reduces their use of opioid painkillers, Ohio study shows, by Ben Adlin. A new study out of Ohio finds that a large majority of medical cannabis patients in the state say cannabis has reduced their use of prescription opioid painkillers, as well as other illicit drugs. Approximately 3,500 state medical cannabis patients and their caregivers received a survey through the Ohio Department of Commerce. 78% of respondents agreed that cannabis reduces their need to use prescription painkillers. The new report was published as a preprint from the Ohio State University Law School's Drug Enforcement and Policy Center. Those who use cannabis daily were more likely to agree that cannabis reduced their need for prescription painkillers compared to those who use cannabis less than daily. The implication is that daily cannabis use is the optimal way to reduce painkillers, wrote Peter Leisure, a senior research associate at the Drug Enforcement and Policy Center. The study acknowledges that given the non-random sampling methods used, the data may not be representative of all cannabis users. Several policy implications could be mentioned in light of these findings, the report says. Ohio probation and parole officers should weigh the costs and benefits of removing cannabis prohibitions. The report suggests researchers should do studies comparing parolees with cannabis prohibition and those without cannabis prohibition. The outcome of the study would measure which group used drugs, committed technical violations, and or new crimes. According to Leisure, moving cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 would make robust research easier to conduct and help reduce obstacles to conducting experimental trials. So this is not the only study suggesting cannabis is preferable to prescription painkillers. Earlier this year, a study from Oregon found that nearby access to cannabis dispensaries moderately reduced opioid prescriptions. Another report published in BMJ Open compared medical cannabis and opioids for chronic pain and found that cannabis may be as effective as opiates, potentially offering relief with a lower likelihood of adverse effects. A study published last year again found that cannabis and opioids were equally effective in mitigating pain, but cannabis also provided holistic relief by improving sleep, focus, and emotional well-being. The AMA found that chronic pain patients using cannabis for at least 1 month significantly reduced the use of prescribed opioids, and another AMA report found that 1 in 3 chronic pain patients reported using cannabis for their pain. Finally, one study found that just letting people legally buy CBD led to a 6 to 8% drop in opioid prescriptions. So I didn't choose this study for the novelty of the information. We're all aware that cannabis improves chronic pain. The CDC estimates that 1 in 5 Americans have chronic pain. So why have cannabis sales in California declined by nearly 5% year over year? I see colorful packages and bud tenders who know how to get high but don't know much about health and wellness. So most dispensary staff don't realize that patients prefer the one-to-one balanced product for pain over THC or CBD alone. So how do we help patients with chronic pain? Can this huge chronic pain demographic revitalize the cannabis industry in California? Or maybe another Cheech and Chong celebrity experience will save the dispensaries in decline? What do you think? This is Dr. Jean Talleyrand with High at 9 News.
Interesting, Dr. T.
Is this still a question? If it helps you with opioid abuse, I know my personal experiences, it's the only thing that actually helped me get off opioids. But people are still questioning this. I'm glad you I covered the story and everything. And as we go state to state, yes, it helps you get off these hard fucking drugs that they pushed on you. But I just feel like it's kind of like a given at this stage. I know they can't say that. I know they can't say it legally. People can't say this legally to sell their products and shit like that. But
yeah, they can't put it on the packaging and market for that. Right.
Purpose. Yeah. The examples and of this shit, the testimonials are so vastly spread at this point.
And you can recite studies. My note's not an issue. It's clear, but in science, you got to repeat the study and come up with hundreds of different pieces of evidence to finally convince everyone. So we're in the process of doing that, and there's been a lot of agencies that have acknowledged that cannabis helps with pain. I think the groups that haven't yet acknowledged it are the very own dispensary operators. They are more comfortable selling cannabis for the high rather than the pain. And I think that just simply citing the list of evidence is a way you can do that. You can list this evidence and say all these studies show that it helps with pain. Is this a way to market your products to those with chronic pain? And also, a lot of people with chronic pain are the elderly. Grandma doesn't feel comfortable coming into a lot of these dispensaries. Until she does, then that's a demographic that doesn't have the opportunity as much to use cannabis.
I don't know. I would like to see the data out of Florida, because Florida's opioid epidemic is not something that's lost on anyone. If you've spent any amount of time there, especially North Florida, you see the number of billboards for pill mills and things like that. And a lot of the pill mill doctors have actually transferred over to writing medical recommendations, which is whatever. But I'd like to see some empirically verifiable data out of Florida, because I think that their medical market might be more indicative of kind of a transition away from the opioid epidemic and away towards cannabinoid-based medicine.
Yeah, but Florida, when they had those doctor mills open, that was like a haven for all of the pill suppliers from around the country to come in and to be able to get all of these different prescriptions, max out on them, and then fly back to their home state and distribute them throughout their communities.
I know you love Mar-a-Lago, but you need to spend some time in North Florida and see what those
I love North Florida. That's Matt's district.
Yeah, well, good for Matt.
You guys are off base. The pharma companies care about Americans over profits. They love us.
Started at a kitchen room table, right, Matthew?
Yes. Air was started at a kitchen table. Tablecloth was made of other humans harvested from concentration camps. But don't look at that, because they were at the kitchen table. Okay. They were a regular family.
Whoa.
Or they were buying and selling humans for medical experiments, but that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. We got to go to a commercial. We're going to be right back.
I just ordered the summertime strawberry salad when added steak on top here at Anna's. Make sure you do the same thing too next time you're in downtown Long Beach. Come on down and check out Anna's joint on the 400 block of Pine Street. They have amazing selection of beers, foods, and when you come down here to Anna's, you can even challenge me to a game of shuffleboard if you want to lose. Did you get that? So, next time you're in downtown Long Beach on Pine Avenue, make sure you stop by Anna's Joint on the 400 block. Not only do they have Anna's Joint, this restaurant and bar, but they also have the amazing deli next door, and then next door to that they have a very exotic flower shop. You may want to stop by and say hi.
Is that you singing? There,
oh, stop whatever you're doing and stop the madness, Rico. You know that's not me singing. But nonetheless, make sure you hit that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it. And YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure that you hit that subscribe button if you have not subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on our website will be up on our website for you to read just after the show. The Control Tower from Highly Educated has perfected the dab. Utilizing the concept of thin film evaporation, you can waste none of it and taste all of it. The micro texture of the SE pillar increases nucleation at elevated temperatures. And with the tower propelling at 2,600 RPMs, it's certainly the most efficient dab experience to date. The Control Tower from Highly Educated. What's that?
I'm saying.
You with us, Rico?
Are we up?
Yeah, we're back. We're back. Oh, yeah.
Up next, it's Dr. Mark. He is here to break us off with the lesson that we needed. We've been waiting all week for, and I hope you all have your blue pads ready and are ready for a little bit of Friday education from the New England-based anti-boof peddler of truth himself. Come to the stage, none other than the Dr. Mark Scialdone. Scialdone. Is that Scialdone on that one? What's going on here, Dr. Mark? I apologize. I feel like I'm Jason today.
Whoa. Crazy.
Yeah, you could call me Scialdone, whatever.
Just call him.
Yeah, just call me, exactly. All right, everybody. Happy Friday. Hope you're having a great week. Hope you got some great plans for the weekend. Weather looks nice up here in Vermont. Hopefully the weather's nice where you guys are at. My story today comes out of Nature, is one of the most highly regarded scientific journals in the world. Nature and Science and the proceedings from the National Academy of Science. These are like the top sort of tiered scientific journals in the world. So this is a contribution from Professor Carrie Cutler, who is a psychologist at Washington State University, in collaboration with Zvia Cooper at UCLA and Dr. Ethan Russo, who we all know. And the article is entitled Acute Effects of Cannabidiol on Anxiety, Stress, and Mood, a double-blind placebo controlled crossover field trial. So this is really cool because a couple years ago, Dr. Russo and Michelle Sexton published an article that described a survey of patients that used CBG, cannabidiol, which we know is non-psychoactive. And so they did a survey to find out why people were using CBG, predominant cannabis. So this was actually cannabis strains that were enriched with CBG. And what they found was that people were using CBD predominant products, particularly for anxiety, chronic pain, depression, and insomnia. Most respondents reported greater efficacy of CBG, predominant cannabis, over conventional pharmacotherapy with benign adverse effect profiles and negligible withdrawal symptoms. The study, this was back in 2022, established that humans are employing CBG and CBG dominant strains. So now in this paper, so that again, that was 2 years ago in 2022. Now here in 2024, they're publishing a double-blind paper. So this is beautiful how we've taken now botanical medicine, where they've basically queried why are people smoking this, and now they're actually doing a double-blind trial. And I see Jean shaking or nodding his head, because this is again how science can help us understand. People are using these strains. What are they using them for, and are they effective? So that's basically what this article points out. It says that CBG is a phytocannabinoid increasing in popularity, with preclinical research indicating it has high anti-anxiety and antidepressant effects. However, there are no published clinical trials to corroborate these findings in humans. The primary objective of this study was to examine acute effects of CBG on anxiety, stress, and mood. Secondary objectives were to examine whether CBD produces subjective drug effects or motor or cognitive impairment, as we know is well documented with things like THC. So a double-blind placebo controlled trial was conducted with 34 healthy adult participants. So this is data in humans. It's always good to see data in humans, because we know that data from animals don't always translate to data in humans. They participated in 2 sessions with a 1-week washout period in between via Zoom. In each, they provided ratings of anxiety, stress, and mood, and subjective drug effects prior to the double-blind administration. So when they're doing a double-blind administration, they don't know who's getting the actual drug and who's getting, say, what they call just a placebo, to see if there is just a placebo effect. And these were 20 milligram hemp-derived CBG or tinctures that were used. The rating was collected after participants ingested the product, so they're taking it orally, and then doing a number of different online surveys and verbal memory tests, and also something called the Druid impairment app, which must be an app for the phone that gives you an indication of your level of impairment. So relative to placebo, there was significant main effect of CBG on the overall reductions of anxiety. So it acted as an anti-anxiety treatment. CBG also enhanced verbal memory relative to placebo. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. T, but that's something that THC does not do. I think it sends you in the opposite direction, and we know that THC does have this effect on verbal memory. There was no evidence on subjective drug effects or impairment. So this isn't something that's going to keep you from driving a vehicle or keep you, say, from going to work. So there is no subjective drug effects or impairment. CBG may represent a novel option to reduce stress and anxiety in healthy adults. So it's interesting, too, as I scroll down the paper, this kind of goes along what we were talking about in Matthew's story, which is that what they claim, or what they I don't say claim, but maybe what they're pointing to is that these compounds are known to act on the 5-HT receptors, which are the same receptors that psilocybin and other psychedelics are acting on. And there didn't seem to be any long-term damaging effects. So Matthew, I think if they did the same kind of brain imaging here before and after the CBG treatment, you'd see pretty much the same brain image on each side of this. So I think this is really super exciting, because I think what this tells us is that for a long time, people known that CBG has this effect. It reduces anxiety. Now, in a double-blind placebo test, you can tell versus the placebo control group that this does indeed have an effect. So I think this is always exciting to see this kind of data. This is what medical professionals are asking for, right, Dr. T? They'd like to see double-blind studies to know that the actual drug at that dose is actually having the effect. And perhaps medical professionals can now point to this paper around dosing or around giving guidance to patients around, CBG tinctures or other CBG products. But that's my story today. It's Friday. Have a great weekend, folks, and I'd love to hear what my other correspondents have to say. Dr. T, isn't this the kind of thing that when I say we, this is the kind of thing that the medical community is really looking for out of researchers like Dr. Russo, who, again, commands a lot of respect. When Ethan publishes a paper, I think the medical community takes a pause and reads that paper.
Well, both the medical community and the cannabis industry. But, this is pharma. Pharma is reconstructing the plant one molecule at a time. What's interesting to me is that there, I don't know any plants. I don't know if you guys have seen any COAs where it's mostly CBG. I've seen, type 1 plants where it's high THC, low CBD, and then maybe about 6% CBG. But I haven't seen it.
There are varieties now, Dr. T, that are high in CBG and low in all the other cannabinoids, in particular low in THC and THCA. So there's the white, I know, is one particular strain that is high in CBG. Oh, it's high in CBGA. It's often very low in THC, so it qualifies as hemp because it's below that 0.3 threshold. And so that smokable flower, John, is in shops. And certainly there are tinctures and gummies and other things. I see Vermont Alternative here in the chat was talking about a formulation that was 3 to 2 to 1 CBG to CBD THC, and that formulation does well for sleep aids. So, I think that CBG is certainly gaining its popularity. And one of the reasons, John, is because the genetics are now available to create a high CBG variety. So high CBG varieties are out there. That means you can get CBG isolate because that can be isolated from the plant, and also CBGA. I think CBGA is kind of like the 800-pound gorilla in the CBG room, because I think the cannabinoid acids here might have better effect than the decarboxylated cannabinoids, but I see that they can use CBGA in this study.
Calling all
we know
trappers.
CBGA from.
Oh, they did. It was a blend. They actually had a little bit of THC in there too.
Yeah, they did. But what I didn't see in here is whether or not they had CBGA.
Yeah,
but,
CBG, GA, and THC, but it was way more CBG than any of the other two. It was just like just a little, like 0.1% or 1%, but not very much of the others.
I would tend to think that you'd want to take a Jean-Luc fire all weapons kind of mentality here and put as many of these cannabinoids into these products. Look for potential synergy between them or efficacy.
This is the value of
the best formulation you get.
Go ahead, Jenny.
It's definitely the value of solvent-based extraction, because you're able to isolate things and kind of honestly reverse engineer a product that adds different cannabinoids in. And I think that this is exciting. I want to hear Dr. Talleyrand's opinion, because I think this is kind of the verifiable proof that doctors are going to need. But I think also, this is my question, I guess. People's bodies do react differently. I saw that you in Vermont Alternatives were going back and forth about how he metabolizes things kind of differently than others then. And that's, I think, part of the patient frustration when we're looking at cannabis from a medicinal use standpoint, is that it is kind of trial and error based on patient to patient. You kind of have to have a little bit of patience and be willing to kind of go down that rabbit hole a bit.
Yeah, you're right. But you know, that's us still in regular practice. You give somebody a blood pressure medicine, you see if it works, you increase the dose, see if that works, add a second medicine. So we're doing trial and error all the time in the doctor's office.
That's why they call it practice. Who funded this study?
Washington State was one of those, but I don't know who. But yeah, this is a pharma move.
This smells to me like they want to make sure that they can isolate it. It's going to go to Schedule 3. I'm pretty sure this is a play for that molecule for sure right there.
A pharmaceutical company can't patent a public composition like CBG. So while it's true that pharmaceuticals are usually patented compounds that only that company can make, by publishing this literature in the open literature, now anybody can basically say, hey, I want to reduce my anxiety. I'm going to try a high CBG strain. There's nothing a pharmaceutical company.
I don't think the goal would be to get a patent, or the objective. I think the objective would more to get drug preclusion on that compound.
Well, that would require a formulary patent to enforce that. And I think that, that I agree with Dr. Scialdone. And I think that there are formulary patents that exist that contain the aqueous suspension of cannabinoids, and it doesn't say just a specific cannabinoid. And I think that the FDA Preclusionary Act would be something we're looking at more like the Epidiolex situation.
Well, Ethan is a true soldier of the plant, right? And by Ethan being on this paper and putting it out into the public forum, guess what? It can't be patented now, right? Because it's public information, and public information is prior art.
Nice move.
I love to see people with the right intentions. If a pharmaceutical company
wanted to patent this would be ruled as prior art, and the patent would be thrown out.
Well, look at the experience with CBN, and I forgot that company. They created a CBN. They didn't say it was that they were patenting the actual molecule. They're saying they were patenting the process to create their proprietary type of CBN, which they called true CBN. So in some way, they worked around the whole patent game.
See?
Well, you could patent a process, but if you could come up with a different way of making that molecule, how are you going to enforce a patented process if the pharmaceutical company down the road does never let you into their facility to see how they're making it, right? You could test their product and say, hey, there's CBN in the product, but they could claim that they're making it by a different process, right?
Yeah, that's what they did. And then they went to the patent office with that.
Mm-hmm. See? Told you. I knew I smelt it.
Yeah, this one is interesting because he added 3 compounds, CBG, CBGA, and THC, and that unique combination, along with any formulation, unique formulation that they're doing, will give them an opportunity to patent this combo.
Yeah, but they could hire someone like me, and I could basically invalidate that patent by just simply finding a strain that has the CBG, CBD, and THC in the same ratio. There'd be prior art to say that invention is obvious.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of searching. That's going to be, you can pop in a lot of beans for that, Dr. Mark.
Got to make a living somehow.
Man,
remember, this didn't have any CBD in there.
Mm-hmm.
It only had CBG.
And I'll tell you what, it's a trapper alert, because apparently CBGA is going to be the next hot thing to sell.
I think so. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, coming up next, that's right. She's on her phone.
All these letters.
She's getting ready to read. That's right. It is Miss Jenny Beth Dills. She is the founder of Be Kind Cannabis.
That is not it.
Fuck.
That's probably somebody else's fucking company, so thanks for getting me sued, Jason. But you know what? It's okay.
Sued.
It's okay, because everyone's broke anyway. Everyone's broke anyway, you know that?
This is what happens when you put 2 elephants in one room.
Oh, boy.
Jesus Christ.
She's the founder of Kind Cannabis Consulting. And also the nonprofit Justice Served. That's right. Elephants.
All right. Well, I mean, I think the elephant in the room is when do we get the Ferraris? We don't, because only 27% of U.S. cannabis operators are profitable, reveals The Economist. As the cannabis industry braces for possible changes, new research reveals a stark reality. Only 27.3% of U.S. cannabis businesses are turning a profit. Bo Whitney, founder and chief economist at Whitney Economics, an up-and-coming speaker at the Benzinga Pay-to-Play Cannabis Capital Conference, shared these critical findings in an exclusive interview with Benzinga, offering a candid look at the financial hurdles facing the cannabis market. Whitney Economics developed models to accurately predict cannabis demand and the necessary licenses to support the growth. Our report aims to forecast how much investment will be required to sustain the industry's expansion moving forward, said Whitney. This type of prediction has never been done before, giving investors a clearer picture of the opportunities ahead. These models provide critical data for investors, banks, policymakers, offering a glimpse into the future financial landscape of the cannabis market. The projections are expected to influence federal policy, particularly regarding SAFE Banking Act, which aims to improve banking access for cannabis businesses. Whitney highlighted the 3 main areas of the cannabis industry where capital demand is the highest: retail, processing, and cultivation. Retail is seeing the largest growth because the consumers need access to the expanding retail outlets, increases market accessibility. Whitney explained he noted greater access to legal cannabis helps reduce illicit market activities, benefiting both regulators and legitimate operators. Whitney's report emphasizes that retail expansion is crucial for public policy objectives, such as reducing illegal cannabis sales by providing consumers with more legal options. A striking revelation from Whitney's research is the profitability struggle faced by many cannabis operators. Only 27.3% of cannabis businesses in the United States are profitable, Whitney stated. This figure, although an improvement from last year's 24.5%, still lags significantly behind the national average of 65.3% for all small businesses. Cannabis operators are trending well below the national average, indicating substantial challenges in achieving profitability, Whitney added. Whitney attributed the low profitability to several factors, including high tax burdens and limited access to banking services. Reform with rescheduling will provide tax relief and free up cash flow, helping businesses manage debt better and pay delinquent taxes, he noted. Improved banking access would also lower the cost of capital, making the industry more attractive to investors. Whitney's findings emphasize the importance of strategic planning and data-driven decisions for cannabis businesses seeking investment. To secure funding, cannabis proposals need solid data, a compelling value proposition, and a strong management team, Whitney advised. He also pointed out a trend away from vertical integration situation with large brands now contracting suppliers rather than investing in self-contained operations. I think that I want to read his findings. I think that a large problem with consumer data and trending data in the cannabis space is that it's not correct. Like you can't predict something that you don't know. And I've looked at deck after deck after deck, and I think that investors are shying away from cannabis.
You looked at what? After what?
Excuse me? Yeah. Okay, Rico. Thank you. Very, very good. So yeah, I think that it's investors are trending away because you can't take people seriously, much like Rico's comment about the decks. They know you're going to steal their money. They know you're going to misappropriate their money, and they know that you don't know how to use their money. So giving these inflated hopes and dreamy type, we're going to be worth $30 million next year kind of proposals and value props and decks is just not, it's not realistic. I'd love to see if they have something more realistic, but I'm going to go ahead and bet that they don't, since he's still citing taxes are the issue for the retailer, because they're not all the way. So, yeah. I don't know. I'm interested to hear. I know Jason's going to argue with me because taxes are the only reason people don't make money. Taxation is theft, but taxes are not the biggest fucking issue.
Taxes are the biggest issue.
You know who's getting squeezed? The manufacturer. So it's not the retailer. So cry me some more sad rivers. But all right.
You know what I'd like to see with this whole thing in all reality? I would like them to do this exact same study just on New York by itself.
I also don't think that the data around illicit purchases is ever going to be correct.
I'm not saying that it is.
Self-identify that you just went up the block to the trap real quick?
I'm not saying that it is. I'd like to see them just do it with their legal businesses in New York.
I would just like to see real data, but I don't think that people understand. Like, we have an option to use consumer ID metadata, right? Because when you go into Target, unless you scan your little Target rewards card, they don't know you're there. When you check into a dispensary, you have to check in with your government-issued ID. It creates a cookie that shows how long you shopped, what you bought, etc. And if you left without buying anything, it closes that loop. That is amazing data, and retailers and brands don't know how to optimize and market to their public, to their specific clientele, because they don't even understand how to decipher the ID metadata that is so readily available to them. You can literally guide your efforts if you know how to use those numbers, and they don't.
So you just set Rico up for the perfect alley-oop right now.
I didn't, because I don't, never mind. Go ahead, Rico.
Yeah, isn't that what you do, Rico?
My calves are strong.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I jump very high.
Mm-hmm.
47-inch vertical, Jason.
I bet.
Wow, that's almost as tall as Jason Beck.
Oh, you missed that one. 47.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We're glad you're enjoying yourself, Rico.
Are you okay today, Rico?
Always.
Always? Okay.
Always.
All right. Fair enough.
Always enjoying.
But I completely agree with you, Jenny. That is, looking at the analytics of your store rather than just using your gut intuition will help you improve your store. And I believe there's a lot of money being left at the door because people aren't looking at their analytics.
That's a fair point.
And as to Jason's point, and Jason's point in the layup there, it's all about the data, man. And you got to know exactly what's going on in your shop and stop using your gut. Without giving a full commercial about my company, what we do is we help companies do that shit. Like, seriously, we got to get off of that as the industry matures and the money and these the crazy money we've been talking about this week dries up as far as investments and people just dropping a bunch of dollars. They see that you actually have to run your business like mainstream businesses do. And their inventory managers aren't using their gut. They're actually using the data and finding out what the needs of their customer bases are. So the more you know about that stuff and the more you're tracking absolutely everything, know the power of your POS, right? All that data that's in your POS, that is yours as a retailer. And even if it's not with our product or whatever, hire somebody to mine that data for you so you know exactly what you should be buying, what you should not be buying, and how much of that. Right? Just because you go to an awesome event and you have some awesome product, does not mean your customers are going to like that shit. So
if your brand finds your
you can't
shrink,
write shit off on your taxes, don't go deeper into the debt.
if your customer's not buying your product, find out whose product they are buying. There's ways to do that. You know, we kind of worked with some really awesome guys from Wharton, some of the people that worked on from Raytheon, and created a way to analyze data and find your shrink and find your consumer and how much of their dollars are being spent in your store and outside of your store. And I think that it's really important because the POS data is raw data, but you have to be able to analyze that and make that an effective use case. And so I think that, I keep on hearing this taxes. I get it. Taxes suck. It's a large amount. But guess what? If I pull out a retail fucking receipt right now, there are line items on that. A large portion of those taxes are being collected from the consumer. So the consumer should be screaming taxes, not the guy who can't get a new Ferrari next week.
Jenny, I think you made a really, really great point there. Yeah, IXI data is really, really good, knowing who is coming in, where they're coming from, because all of this shit is available on a grand scale, and you can damn near close to like 10% error rate find out what these people's net worths are without even going through their taxes. What we focus on is everything that goes on with your current customers, but it's really good to see both ends of that. You know, the 2080 rule says that 20% of your customers are responsible for about 80% of your revenue that you're bringing in. It's very important to make sure you're keeping those people happy, have the products on your shelves that serve them that they want to, and deepen those relationships. And just know that with our industry being as new as it is, a lot of those people that are coming in they're not gonna come back. They're gonna be searching for discounts every single time. And in our industry, if you're going for a loyalty and discount, you can't do both of them in cannabis, or you are going to go broke. Period. Right. So pick one or the other, and you'll be part of this 27% that Bo Whitney's talking about.
Look at that. How to improve your business. Mic. Yeah, there we go. All right, I'm going to just roll into the story. We're running out of a lot of time today. You ready for this, Rico?
Let's go.
All right. Well, GOP lawmakers discuss marijuana rescheduling impact of another Trump presidency in interviews at the RNC. As the Republican National Committee convention comes to a close, a number of Republican congressional lawmakers are sharing predictions about the prospects of marijuana policy reform, including rescheduling if President Donald Trump wins another term in the White House in November. Perspectives were mixed in a series of interviews with Marijuana Moment this week as delegates formally voted to nominate Trump as the party's pick, and the former president announced his running mate, Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio. While the general theme of the conversations was a difference to Trump's largely unknown cannabis policy desires, there were significant divides among GOP members about what they'd personally like to see happen. My buddy, Representative Brian Mast out of Florida, co-chair of the Congressional Cannabis Caucus, tempered concerns that a Trump administration would reverse course on the modest reforms that have been achieved under the Biden administration. Having, in quotes, new blood in the office with upcoming congressional elections means there will be more people who didn't lock themselves in to past prohibitionist positions that they're unwilling to depart from, he said, adding that those lawmakers are going to have a new position. To underscore that point, the congressman drew a parallel to Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell from Kentucky and former House Speaker John Boehner from Ohio. While in office, both GOP leaders had opposed cannabis reform because they had longstanding positions on the issue while serving in elected office, and McConnell, who is still in office, has maintained that opposition. But since leaving office, Boehner has since advocated for federal marijuana reforms in his capacity as a lobbyist. Well, not to mention, too, he was the House Speaker when we first passed Rohrabacher Farr, and so he was the reason that was able to even get included in the first place. So even though he had that position, he was still working that way, but nonetheless. In a quote, he was staunchly against it, and now he's like the biggest lobbyist client, Most said. And with the majority of states having enacted legalization in some form, the congressman said, then it's the will of the people, and the Republican Party is supposed to be about states' rights, he says. Asked whether he had any concerns about the possibility that a Trump administration or GOP-controlled Congress would block the marijuana rescheduling proposal made by President Joe Biden's Justice Department, Mass said, I don't think so, no. And he said that his argument to Republican colleagues who might raise the issue is that if you supported the states' rights philosophy of the U.S. Supreme Court case that overturned abortion rights under Roe versus Wade, you should apply that same principle to state cannabis laws. Representative Nancy Mace out of South Carolina, who sponsored legalization legislation, who was also asked about the prospect of a Trump administration rollback of rescheduling, and she didn't directly answer the question, but said, I support rescheduling, but I support descheduling. She says, leave it up to the states to decide, she said, echoing points she made during a separate interview at the RNC convention this week. But the interviews with Mast and Mace did not necessarily reflect the consensus, as other GOP lawmakers made clear they did not personally back reform, rescheduling, or otherwise, and didn't want to speak to the party nominee's position. House Majority Leader Steve Scalise from Louisiana, for his part, declined to address cannabis altogether when asked about it, instead stating that Republicans are looking at an agenda focused on getting the economy moving again, pointing out convention themes such as lowering inflation and tackling border security, for example. Representative Chuck Fleischman, Republican from Tennessee, who was among 25 GOP members who recently urged the Drug Enforcement Administration to keep marijuana in a Schedule I in a joint public comment on the proposed rescheduling rule, told Marijuana Moment that he wasn't sure how Trump would navigate the issue, but he said the former president is going to have to sit back and look at every executive order that this administration has put in, including rescheduling. In an additional quote, he says, I can't speak to what he's going to do, he said. I'm a fiscal and social conservative, so I've seen marijuana and other drugs ruin families. I'm going to defer all those decisions to Trump. In an additional quote, says, I think it's part of the Republicans' ethos. I think we just need to refocus it. I think Nancy Reagan said it best when she said, just say no, he said. I think we would have to have massive education programs. We need to get that information out to the people so that they can make very strong decisions about any substance. He added that he plans to oppose the Justice Department's marijuana rescheduling proposal, and an additional quote says, I think ultimately right now it's with the states, he said. But the federal government, I think, is probably ultimately going to leave it where it's at in Schedule I. Senator John Boozman, Republican from Arizona, told Marijuana Moment that he's more immediately interested in addressing federal hemp policy, voicing concerns about the consumable hemp product market that has come into sharp focus in recent weeks. As the House moves to enact bans on such items, Boozman said that he shares his GOP colleagues' perspective that there's a loophole in the 2018 Farm Bill that legalized the cannabis crop that needs to be stopped. He went on to say that while there may be certain conditions that medical marijuana can help with, he feels the scope of its treatment potential has been inflated, and the senator continues to believe that marijuana is a gateway drug. So he's only comfortable with it being prescribed by a physician for a limited set of conditions. In a quote, most of the states with medical marijuana, it's a wild west, Boozman said. I think it's really hard now. I think the states probably need to get it sorted out. On the other hand, I'm not for any federal expansion. Senator Bill Hagerty, Republican of Tennessee, another signatory on the anti-rescheduling letter, DEA, who has similarly argued that marijuana is a gateway drug, told Marijuana Moment that he doesn't view cannabis reform as a matter of liberty and freedom. That's very interesting. Rather, he looks at it as a patient with a great concern about where it leads. This is far stronger than anything that people were doing back in the 60s, he said. I certainly don't want to see this encouraged, and I didn't see anything in the GOP platform that would make me go otherwise. The Democratic National Committee, meanwhile, is touting Biden's marijuana pardons rescheduling moves while calling for broader reform to expunge prior records. Unlike in 2020, the party's latest draft platform that was approved by a party committee on Tuesday doesn't promote broader cannabis decriminalization, and the Biden campaign has also been stepping up its push to draw a contrast between the president's marijuana policies as opposed to those of Trump's. Well, some different deciding positions in the Republican Party, it sounds like, from the conference. But what do you two have to say about this?
It's just like we said yesterday, man. It's just a bunch of lip service till shit actually gets signed into law.
Mm-hmm.
Period. So they can cater to their base all they want to right now, but we'll see.
Yeah, I feel that was a lot of catering to their base in all the comments, but. I did find I was very happy to hear Nancy Mace saying how she supports descheduling, and I think that's the message that needs to ring free. And I did find it super interesting, the gentleman from Tennessee who says that he doesn't view it as a freedom issue. That is very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, my only issue with Nancy Mace ever has been the fact that she's backed by Amazon. You know what I'm saying? Like a big picture, like down the line, like. She's funded by Amazon.
You were the one that was just so happy about all the Prime specials just the last 2 days.
I don't buy my weed from Amazon now, and I probably never will.
I'm just saying that's the biggest flip-flop. I hope you bought a pair of flip-flops on Amazon Prime Day, Rico.
Did you get some flippy floppies?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some swim trunks?
Mm-hmm.
No, I got a new mesh banana hammock though. I'm gonna probably try it out this weekend.
Please keep that. That's for you and Jasmine, and we're gonna just defer to her, and she can tell us all about it.
No. That's the thirst trap.
No. It's weed for the people, not penis for the people. Keep that at your house.
X for the world.
Fair enough. And any thoughts on this, Dr. T or Dr. Mark?
It sounds like the Republican Party is putting a thumbs down to cannabis reform.
I mean, but there hasn't been any policy put forward, and Representative Mass is saying that they would just stay the course of what's going on. Meanwhile, while there is other prohibitionists within the party that would like to not see it go that way. That's and
compare it to what the Democrats have done.
What have the Democrats done? How many people have gotten out of jail?
More than say we're going to defer any answers.
I mean,
they said something.
Yeah.
Whether or not
they've actually produced bills and they just get swatted down by the Republicans every time. That's just is what it is.
I don't know, because there's legislation that's been introduced by Republicans that is far superior to anything any Democrats have entered into Congress. Speaking of Nancy Mace's bill, the States Reform Act.
Y'all do have a thing with that supremacy word, huh?
Wow.
Supremacy. I said States Reform Act. What are you getting all that from?
It started with an S.
Superiority. His superiority complex is running rampant. The Republican Party these days. Yeah, dog whistles bring them out, and Kristi Noem takes them down. She puts them down. Yeah, she does. Dog whistles and dead puppies.
Did you? Jenny Beth just threw in a super chat.
There's 2 of them. You should scroll up.
Oh man,
boy.
man. Oh, so let's. Why wasn't it? There we go. It won't scroll. It's not scrolling. I can't see it. It's not scrolling.
Oh my God. Operator error. I don't know, Jason. Make it figure it out. There you go, bud.
All right, there we go. We got to bounce.
Hold on.
You gonna send them over?
Yeah, she says.
Love, man.
Jenny Beth Dills in a super chat says, "Make my bank account great again, DJT," and also that girl in blue is kind of pretty.
Y'all should be nicer to her.
The girl in blue.
You should.
You hear this, Rico?
You hold on. You gave a super chat to yourself?
She gave. I
did.
Yeah, but
you just wanted Jason to say that shit.
Apparently that's how it works.
Y'all know Jason Beck's the only one that gets to Wagyu.
Yeah, we definitely need some Wagyu today. That's Friday. You know what I mean?
Wag the dog. Wag the dog. All right, we are done for the day. Thank you all for joining us for yet another episode of High 9 News. You can catch us live weekdays at 9 a.m. Pacific, high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to the super fans getting their comments posted to the big screen. Besides Jenny Beth Dills, did we have anybody else today? The C word.
And the C word.
C word.
Yes.
Big love to everybody showing love. Thank you so very much for your support, showing up every day with us through the thick and thin, and breaking us off a little Wagyu money as well. But also the audience and online supporters catching us across all media platforms, tuning in each day to the headlines of chaos, also known as the developing cannabis industry. Our vetted correspondent team tuning in from all over, bringing this much-needed variety of perspective and your respected opinions to the table. Production team, Cloud Media Partners, all the sponsors keeping our lights on and AV struggles to a minimum. Adam, you back there feathering your hair? What's going on today? Man, back there looking like a banana hammock model.
Oh,
stop the cap.
Tell him.
young Travolta.
I'm out.
Young Travolta.
Yeah.
Yes. How many airplanes you landed on the lawn today, brother? As always. If you're in LA, you know John Travolta got two, not one, but two full-size planes on his front lawn. You want to get mad at him. But, as always, Cannabis CTV, the reason why we show up to read these stories every single day, too. Thank you. Bit my lip there. It has been Friday, my day, July 19th, 2024. We are one month removed from Juneteenth, so it is now officially over. Tomorrow, we're going to give it back to y'all. But the show's over. We've all been blessed with the top industry headlines. Hope it was enough for you to put in your pipe and smoke at least until Monday. My name is Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street for High at 9 News, America's #1 daily cannabis news show. And today we're going to give this thing to Dr. T, Dr. Jean Talleyrand. What you got for us, my man?
I guess my message for the weekend is to all the operators. Pay attention to the science that you learned in the show today and use it to make your businesses better. Have a great weekend.